Hi, come on in. Come on and set a spell with me. How you been? The Memorial weekend is past. It's the Tuesday, I think, when I'm releasing this after Memorial weekend, but I still have my, can't see it, my celebratory TEMU shirt on. And I had a nice, relaxing weekend. I did the one video for you guys on Sunday to announce the winner of the giveaway box. I can't believe somebody actually won that entire box. Wow, that's just crazy, right? So I have a couple of TEMU things to show you. Well, not just TEMU. I have TEMU, I have AliExpress, I have stuff that's been going on around the corner, things I've been doing, and I have a little bit of a bittersweet announcement for you. So let's get started right off the bat. Let me show you this AliExpress item that I got. Now, this had free shipping. It was $12.06. It is a lot bigger than what I anticipated. Look at the size of this thing. Now, I know the measurements, but I'm thinking, okay. And you're wondering, what on earth is this? Well, this is a mat, but it's not for me. This is a mat for Mr. Levi. This is a huge rubber feeding mat. It's got a little paw up here in this corner, and it's got a little paw down in the other corner. This thing is heavy. It's got the no skid bubbly back on it. This is going to replace the fuzzy mat that I had his bowl sitting on, because his food gets all into the fuzzy mat and it just doesn't work well. So I'm going to use the fuzzy mat outside for him to lay on the porch and have his own little rug on the porch. So I got this big, heavy food mat. This thing is easily 36, almost 36 inches. I don't have my measuring tape. I don't have either of my measuring tapes handy. How did that happen? Wait, I do. I got one. So how wide is this? This is 32 inches across. 32 inches in length and in width. I don't even want to guess. It is 20 inches. So it's 32 by 20 for $12. This is heavy. This is going to go down on the floor in front of the sink, which is where I keep his dishes, his bowls. Gives him lots of room, gives me lots of room, something to stand on if I need to. If it does turn out to be too big, I can fold it in half like this and just put down halfway. But I like the bigger one. He's a messy eater. When he does decide to eat, he devours his food. So, cute little thing from AliExpress. It's a good deal, right? Okay. Now, what I got, hold on a second here. I'm just so discombobulated this morning. I don't know how I'm going to do this. All right. I videotaped a new item that just came in, and it was a box I had. And so instead of me showing you like here, like this, about 15 minutes ago, I opened the box and I put it together. So let's just take a look at what that is. And this came from TEMU. So hold on a second. So Mr. Levi and I are sitting out here on the porch, and I decided it was time to put this together. What is this? This is a metal firewood stand or firewood holder for outside in the yard. Now, if you remember, I told you, I haven't shown you yet, but oh my gosh, this is stuck in the box. I gotta rip the box. I let you know that I have a big box in here on the porch that has, excuse me while I do this, making struggle faces, pulling all these little pieces out. on the front porch, I have a massive box that contains a fire pit slash barbecue grill that you can use charcoal in, not propane. And it has a lid, so you can also use it as a table. It's a 3-4. So I decided I should have brought scissors with me. I don't know why I didn't bring scissors with me. Hold on a second. Okay, so where was I? I had decided that there's enough wood where I live, because I'm very rural. There's enough wood that I can gather between branches, logs, trees that have fallen down and whatnot. I can gather all that up and not have to buy any firewood. I can basically recycle what Mother Nature has provided to me. So that little chainsaw that I got, I just showed you how well that worked, and the stack of firewood I have. But I don't want the firewood to sit on the ground. It's bad enough that it'll get wet, but if it sits on the ground, it'll start to rot. So I'll put a picture up here so that you can see that this is very small. It's only about 14 inches. It's not very big. It does come with easy to assemble instructions. Very easy to assemble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to put it together, and then I'm going to show you how it came out. What do you think about that? So step 1 is to put the legs on the bottom. Connect the 2 pieces, put the legs on the bottom, and this makes your sides. This was easy, it just goes in with a Phillips head screw. So the only thing you really need to do this is a screwdriver, and I happen to have a ratcheting screwdriver, and a pair of pliers, because on the next step, you have to attach some nuts onto some screws. So in this next part, I attached the side supports. This is what it's looking like so far. It's not very big. It's only about 14 inches across, and all told, it'll be a little more than 20 inches tall when it's done. So all I have left to do is pop on the top rails, and it's this simple. You just put the top rails in, and there is screw holes here so that I can attach the screws, and I'll be right back as soon as I do that. And guess what? We're done. This is it. This is the whole thing. The wood will stack this way. It'll hold it up off the ground by a few inches. And it comes with these little side hooks. And what are these for? These are for kindling. You hook these on the side very simply like that, and your shorter little pieces of kindling set up on there. So I have little twigs and things, and I like it because you can space them as close or as far apart as you need it. So there's a nice little wood rack for holding firewood. It is powder coated galvanized steel. This should not rust, and because it is steel, it should hold up a long time. It does have a base on the bottom of each leg, which is kind of feels a little rubbery. I'm going to make a little gravel area to set this on, just to help with drainage and to help stabilize it. But that's all there was to it. It's very easy to put together. It does come with a few little extra parts, as with most of these things I find from TEMU do come with a couple of extra little screws and bolts, and I just add them to my collection because you never know when I might need them for something else, or I might need to replace that. So we have more things to cover today. Let's go back inside. I love it. It fits perfect right next to the shed, which is its temporary place. It holds every single piece of wood that I had gathered and or cut. As you can see, it's full. But if I do need to move it, I could carry it a step at a time and then like set it. My hair's a mess this morning. And then set it down and then move it and set it down and move it, right? Or I could just dump it, put it where I want it. But for now, it's fine up against the shed. It'll get airflow through the wood, so the wood will dry out. It'll be less likely that the wood will get infected with ants or anything else because it's up off the ground and it's away from the side of the house. I don't really like having things up against the side of the house because that does promote pests coming in. So the next thing I had promised you guys is that I was going to put that little 6-inch mini chainsaw to work. And I knew I had the rack coming for the firewood, so I said, all right, let's see how this thing works. Look at this. All right, it's time to see how this thing actually works and if it works as well as it's supposed to. See if I can do this one-handed. Kind of dangerous, but we're going to try. I'm going to use my foot to hold this in place. And we're going to give this a cut somewhere. Where are we going to cut it? Right there. Oh, hello. That was nice. Let's try a thicker piece of this. Move it down here. Yes, I have a collection of pine cones. Pine cones make great fire starters, in case you guys weren't aware. All right, so let's brace it with the foot and do this one-handed. I'm going to take it right here in the thicker spot. Let's see what happens. Like butter. Okay, this gets an A+ rating from me. Now for the real test. We're going to see if the battery will last long enough to cut all this into 18-inch lengths. Let's find out. Well, okay. It cut that whole big pile into this in no time flat. And it still has, let's see if I can get this on camera, plenty of battery left. No battery loss. And the chain is still nice and tight the way it should be. Yeah. Definitely a big thumbs up, guys. If you don't have one of these, this one's the GeoPace 21 volt Li-ion battery. This is on its first charge, and that only took me maybe 10 minutes to do. So I'm going to go round up a lot more wood and go as far as this battery can go. What can I say? I'm thrilled. Now, I had a little bit more wood in different areas that I had to gather up and cut. I worked for another half an hour cutting up pieces, which is why that wood ring is full now. And it still didn't run out of battery. It still has battery life left. But I did charge it before I put it away, which I have a habit of doing. I will charge up my batteries on my tools before I put them away so that they're ready the next time I need them, or in case of an emergency or an urgent issue where I need to grab it quick and do it, it's already charged and ready and I don't have to worry about it. So I got that charged. I got it done. I love this thing. I can't recommend this highly enough. And as you saw, I was able to do this one-handed. A couple of pieces I cut through were about 2 inches, and a couple of pieces I cut through were about 4 inches in diameter. I don't want to go any bigger than 4 inches because this is only a 6-inch blade and I don't want it to have to struggle. But it didn't struggle at all, even with the 4-inch. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. All right. So those are the products. So you got the AliExpress, you got the wood ring, and the update on the chainsaw. Now, I have 7 purchases, 7 orders coming from TEMU, and they're taking forever. Even the local warehouse. I had one order with 2 things in it from different locals. Neither of those have shown up yet, and it's been 8 days. I have 3 more items all coming, well, 2 of them coming from the same local. Those haven't shown up. Another one coming from a different local, that hasn't showed up. And then 2 smaller direct ship purchases. I think one has 3 items in it and one maybe has 6 or 7 items in it. Some direct purchases from TEMU, and those only just left the country. They haven't even gotten to customs yet here in the United States. So everything is seriously slowed down, but hopefully I'll have some more product coming in for you in the next couple of days. I did want to show you what Levi got today. Levi got his box. He got his Chewy order. Have you ever given these to your dogs? These carryouts? Typically, at the dollar store, they're $1.25. In the grocery store, unless they're on sale for like $1 a piece or 10 for $10, they're at least $1.49 or $1.59. At Chewy, these were on auto ship. These were 96 cents a piece. These are 4.5 ounces, which is the standard size bag. 96 cents. That's cheaper than the dollar store. It is delivered to my door. So he got 2 chickens, because chicken is his favorite. So I got him 2 chickens. And of course, he knows his box. So I opened it and I gave him one. And we got the hot dog minis, which he loves these. And what I do with these is I peel them apart and take the little hot dog piece out of the center and give him that as one bite and then give him the bun as a second bite. So he thinks he's getting 2 pieces. Levi has to consume foods in small, soft quantities. He can't process. If he gets one of these, he'll start coughing and hacking. Break it down. And then the little burgers, 96 cents. Seriously, guys, if you have an animal and you have not yet checked out Chewy, their auto ship is the best price items that you're going to find anywhere. And trust me, I've looked everywhere. Cool. So let's talk about what's going on around the corner. And then I'm going to give you 2 recipes, which are going to surprise you what the recipes for, because you can't eat these recipes. Yeah. Hey, you know what? You guys give me ideas all the time of things that I can share with you, and you want to know how I do this or how I do that. So that's what I'm going to let you know, how I do these things. All right. Let's catch up really quick with what's been going on around the corner because it hasn't been a lot. I did some more gravel work out in the back, and I'll put a picture up here so that you can actually see that the gravel path that runs along the driveway towards the back of the house has now been doubled in length. It's now been extended down to where the watermelon bed is, because I don't want grass growing right next to that bed. Why? Well, granted, it's a raised bed. However, you take a lawnmower, whether it's a riding mower or a walking mower, and you start cutting grass that close, grass is going to blow and grass will get up into that container whether you like it or not. It's going to happen. So if I don't have grass growing right next to the container and the closest mowing area is 3.5, 4 feet away, it's pretty safe to say that the odds of me getting any grass in those containers is slim to none. So I extended the gravel walkway, and I will be putting a little bit of gravel, about a foot or so of gravel, as a protective barrier all the way around that bin, so that it really makes it stand out as a bed. It makes it look nice. It's a clear walking path around it where I'm not walking on grass or anything like that. I have a designated spot. In my gardens back in New York, I always had a dirt alley, so to speak, that I could walk between the rows. So this is kind of the same thing. Instead of walking around the rows, I'm going to walk around the bed, and I'm going to have gravel to do that. Now, the lawn growth at the back of the house, at the back of the shed, is on week 3. It's supposed to be mowable grass by now. It's not mowable. It's getting there. It's grass seed that has fertilizer in it. It's gotten plenty of water. We've been getting a lot of thunderstorms. We're going to get more rain today. So it's not lacking anything. It's just the soil is not top notch, which is why I got the seed with the fertilizer. I'm going to let it keep on going. And when it gets tall enough to mow, I will rake up the straw. I will mow it high, and then I will reseed it and put some more straw down and see if I can thicken it up a little bit. It may take a few treatments because there never was any grass there. It was just dirt. So it takes a little bit longer to grow from scratch. And it's not topsoil. It's literally Alabama dirt. So it'll take a little bit longer, but it'll get there. The front of the house is on week 2, and this is just one of the sections I patched. Now this is growing great. The soil at the front of the house has a good mixture of topsoil in it because the property owner that was here before I moved into this space, to this site, had a lot of plantings out in front of the house. So there was a lot of good topsoil and compost and everything mixed into it. So the soil out front is true soil. It's not dirt. So when I seeded and put the straw down on week 2, there's a lot of good growth on this. So I'm very happy with how the front is doing. And the front that's the curbside. That's what everybody sees anyway. So hopefully that will look nicer sooner. But still not going to mow that for quite a while. The hostas are getting bigger and more. All of a sudden, and I don't know if it's the extra rain, but all of a sudden, they're popping out in that container all over the place. I've got clumps and clusters of them, and that's all right. With hostas, that can happen because when they get clumped together and they get root bound, they shoot up bigger. And I want them to do that because hostas are easy to separate. And when that pot gets full and when they're bigger and stronger, I will start separating them out, but it probably won't be until late summer. Hostas don't grow super, super fast. It usually takes them a year to get to this nice, big, full size, but they are coming along. All right. So now let's talk about the canna. The regular canna that I showed you last week was, I believe, 22 inches. It's now 25, almost 26 inches. Now that's not a giant canna, that's a regular canna. So for it to grow 2 to 3 inches in a week is good growth, but it's super healthy. It's absolutely beautiful the way it's coming up. And I'm not watering it. I'm just letting Mother Nature do its thing. But now the muscifolias, the giant cannas, here's a picture of the front of the house so you can see the cluster that I have growing. And you can see now how predominant they're becoming. And their leaves are opening so you can see why I spaced them so far apart. The one that I've been measuring in the front on a consistent basis, I believe last week it was 15 inches on last Wednesday. It is now 19, almost 20 inches. If I were to go down to the soil base where I had been measuring and measure up, it's about 20 inches tall at this point. So it's grown another 5 inches in 6 days. However, the one behind it that I wasn't measuring all of a sudden just took up and blew up in height. And this thing is massive. Hold on a second. Sorry, I had to take Levi out for a quick trip. So the one behind it just literally blew up in height, and it is now at, I believe, 25 inches tall, and it was less than 15 inches tall last Wednesday. Because the one in front that I had been measuring that hit 15 inches, this one in the back corner behind it was nowhere near as tall. So this particular one has grown a foot in 6 days. And the cluster one, as you can see in the big picture again, they're all doing beautiful. There was one planted at the dead center at the back, and that did not sprout at all. So I'm just going to leave it be and let those 4 that are there start to fill out and come up. And as I need to split them and maybe move them around, then I have space to do it. I can put it where that is. So I'm just like floored at the amount of growth on these things. The azaleas, look how pretty. They're getting blooms on a regular basis, lots of new green growth. They're absolutely doing wonderful. Everything is doing great. Look, the pepper plant has doubled in size. The tomato plants have tripled in height. Tripled in the past week, in 1 week. And the watermelon plants have doubled in height, and more of them are sprouting up where I didn't even plant them. Must have been, as I said last video, must have been like random seeds. Everything is growing like weeds. But let me tell you something. It's not just the rain. I have a recipe that I'm going to share with you. It's a fertilizer that anybody can make with ingredients you have right in your home. You can use it on vegetables, or you can use it in your flower beds, or you can use it in a plant that's in a pot in your house. If you want to improve the growth, this is the recipe for it. And this will accelerate. As you can see, I treated everything last week and everything went crazy. I know we didn't have 6 days of rain. We had rain last night and we had rain the night before. We haven't had like all day rains and drenching rains. So it's my normal watering procedure and my recipe for fertilizer. So I thought you might want that recipe to help you, because if you don't have a green thumb, or if you do have a green thumb, either way, this will improve the color of your thumb and the growth of your plants. And this fertilizer also has a kind of like a natural repellent in it. But the second recipe that I'm going to give you is a recipe for mosquito repellent. Homemade mosquito repellent. You do not have to go to the store and buy something that's got heavy chemicals in it and spray it around. You don't need mosquito coils. You don't need, yes, if you want to get spray to spray on yourself, that's fine. But if you use this recipe and you spray, right, and this recipe is safe for your plants. It's safe to be around your plants. You're not going to spray it on the leaves, but it's safe on the ground around the plants. It's safe for kids. It's safe for pets. This is all homemade ingredients. So why don't you grab a pen and a piece of paper? Or if you want to type it in, you can type it in. Hold on, I need a drink. And I'm making a mess here. My cup is sweating. Okay. I am going to give you both recipes, and I'm going to start with the mosquito repellent. We'll do that one first, all right? I don't care where you live. This is the time of year, even in Arizona this time of year, if they got any kind of rain or if you went anywhere, this is the time. Mosquitoes are going to be all over the place. And especially in Alabama, mosquitoes are going to be extremely predominant. I was talking with my neighbor the other day, in a matter of 5 minutes, I probably got bit about 40 times. And I said to him, "Excuse me, I've got to go make some repellent." He's like, "What?" Okay, so here we go. This is your homemade mosquito repellent recipe. The first thing you're going to need is a gallon container. And I just save a milk jug. That's the easiest thing to do. But if you have a gallon mason jar or any other gallon container, or you can cut the recipe into fourths if you want to do just a quart at a time. But depending on where you want to spray and how big your property is, a gallon is about right, because this is easy to make and you can always make more. So you want room temperature or tepid water. Water that's slightly warm, like in other words, water warm enough that you could wash a baby in it, but not scald a baby. All right, so tepid. Room temperature, tepid, warm water. 1 gallon. That's the first thing. Then you want 1/4 cup ground garlic. And I'm talking dehydrated, like garlic powder. You can actually use garlic powder that you cook with, or you can go online and get ground garlic powder. It's the same thing. The ground garlic is just a little more expensive in a bigger container, but you don't really need it. 1/4 cup of garlic powder. Again, you can downsize this, all right? Now, the next ingredient is optional. If you don't have it, it's fine. It's not going to really make much of a difference. All it does is just kind of kick this recipe up a little bit, make it a little bit more potent, but it'll still work without it. So item number 3 is citric acid, which, as you know, it's just powder, right? you're going to use 1/2 tablespoon in the gallon. The last ingredient is dish soap. Dawn, specifically Dawn. Now, if you don't want to use Dawn, you can get, let me see, I wrote it down somewhere. Castile soap. Castile soap is basically, it doesn't have any lye in it. So you don't want a soap that has any lye. Castile is very pure, all natural ingredients, but you can use Dawn dishwashing soap. And if you don't have it, run to the Dollar Tree, run to Dollar General, local supermarket. You can get the little tiny bottles, right? You don't need a lot. So you're going to use, because you're only going to use a little, 1/4 tablespoon of the Dawn liquid soap. What the soap does is it basically just helps the garlic and the water adhere to the surfaces, and it kind of makes a little bit of like a repellent, in a sense that nothing else, like you're not going to get any bugs laying eggs on it or whatever the case may be. You get what I'm saying? It kind of keeps it a little bit pest free. So you're going to let that sit for just a couple of minutes. And I usually do like 1/2 gallon of water to start, and then I put the lid on and I shake it up a little bit. Let it sit for a couple of minutes because you want to make sure that that garlic is thoroughly dissolved. And that's another reason why you have to use the warm water. Cold water typically won't dissolve powdered much of anything. So the warm water. Shake it up really good. After you shake it a few times, you check it, let it set for 5 minutes. If you don't see any sediment on the bottom, then top off the rest of the gallon with warm water. Tap water is fine. Doesn't have to be any kind of fancy water, just from your faucet. Just make sure it stays warm water. Now, you're going to spray this around your veggies, not on the leaves, around the veggie garden. All right, around the flower beds. You can get up close to them. You're just not going to spray from the top. You're going to put this on the ground around. If in my watermelon bed, I sprayed the dirt really close to the soil and avoided the leaves. I just did little spurts. All right, you don't have to do a lot. So you're going to lightly mist. You're not going to soak. You're just going to lightly mist around your vegetables. Do not spray your pollinator flowers. I have that firecracker bush that sits between my peppers and my watermelon beds. I do not spray that bush at all, nor do I spray around that bush, because I want to attract the pollinators that I need for the veggie gardens. All right, so you get my drift? So if you have a veggie garden and you have your pollinator plants, avoid your pollinator plants completely with this spray. All right, now, don't worry about the garlic smell, because once this dries, there will be no odor that you and I can detect. But mosquitoes can. And mosquitoes do not like the smell of garlic. Come on, they're little vampires. Where do you think they got the idea from for the vampire movies? Little trivia in case you guys didn't know that with the garlic and the vampires. That actually came from the mosquitoes not liking garlic. Mosquitoes are bloodsuckers, right? Okay, so bloodsuckers, aka vampires, aka garlic. Right? You didn't know that? Okay, so there you go. Connie's little trivia. So what you're going to do is just leave that. Now, don't spray on a windy day, because you don't want this spray getting onto the actual leaves of things. And of course, you don't want it coming back into your face. All right, so be careful about that. Just spray around everything. If you're having a barbecue, spray it around. You can spray the chairs that you're going to sit on, which is kind of a moot point if you're going to sit on them, but spray on the ground around the barbecue, spray on the ground around the table or the picnic table. Just walk and spray. Now, if you happen to have a larger property, you may want to make several gallons of this. This doesn't go bad. Once you're done using it, all right, and I have that orange pump sprayer that I got from TEMU. So that's what I keep it in. I just leave it in the shed. And it's fine. It's not going to spoil. Garlic doesn't spoil, not powdered garlic anyway. So there's nothing in there that's going to spoil. You just have to shake it up before you use it again and make sure that it's warm enough to use. Let it sit out in the sun for 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how hot it is, and let it warm up. So that's your recipe for mosquito repellent, and it does work. But let me tell you something else. It's not exactly a mosquito repellent. It's more like a little army to get rid of mosquitoes. There's one insect out there that does not bite and it does not sting. You can actually touch it and pet it very, very lightly. All right. And it will let you, it doesn't freak out. Okay. But it loves mosquitoes. Anybody got any idea what it is? Dragonflies. Dragonflies' main meal is mosquitoes. They love mosquitoes, and they are a natural deterrent to mosquitoes. Well, you may not have a lot of dragonflies in your yard. Most people who don't have a lot of water around them don't have a lot of dragonflies, but you can attract dragonflies. So how do you attract dragonflies? That's easy. Now, let me also tell you, you know those little no-see-ums, those little gnats that bother us? Dragonflies eat those too. So if you don't necessarily have mosquitoes, you probably have no-see-ums, and where I am in Alabama, we have both, right? So you figure out, do you want to attract dragonflies to your yard where you're going to be spending your time outside? Do you want them to help control the mosquito population and the no-see-um gnat population? Because they will. So the first thing you do is you get some garden stakes, and you can go, I think one of the big box stores has the 3 or 4 foot bamboo stakes where you get a pack of like a dozen or 20 for a few bucks. You're just going to put those in the ground at various spots. In other words, wherever you have your vegetation, put a stake in the ground. It'll still look nice. It's bamboo. Let it stick up from the ground, because dragonflies like perches. They like to be up on things and kind of like survey. So you have to provide a perch. These types of sticks, these bamboo sticks, if you have any kind of other tall gardening sticks that you might use, that's fine, as long as it's at least 3 feet tall above the ground. Let the dragonflies will start to perch on that. So you can use stakes. In my backyard, I've got the tall trellis in the middle of the yard, which is like 72 inches where the tomatoes are. I've got the 6-foot trellis there. I've got the 3-foot trellis coming up over the tomato plant. And I will start, once I get the yard more in shape, I'll actually be putting more stakes out there in different spots to help attract the dragonflies. You can also use wires or cord, thin cord, and you're going to want to use nylon cord, because if you use twine, it gets wet to a certain point, it gets rough, it gets weak, and it kind of rots. So if you have thin wire, and it doesn't matter if it's a coated wire or just cable wire, thin wire or thin nylon rope. And when I say thin, I'm talking braid size like you would use on a tent stake. You know, 1/8 of an inch thick nylon rope. You can string that from place to place. You can string it from tree branch to tree branch. You can string it from, I could put a hook on the shed and string it over to the house, or put a hook on the shed and string it back to a tree. Wherever you can think that keeping your property looking the way you want it to look, you can start stringing these cords, wires, all right, high, and I'm talking at least 6 feet, if not 7 feet high. Again, that gives the dragonflies a place to perch, right? So it's important. Then you have to make sure that these stakes are somewhere, as I said, near your flowers and near your vegetation, so that when you're watering, obviously the water, whether it be rain or the water you put out there, is going to attract mosquitoes and flies and bugs. with these perches, it's also going to attract the dragonflies. So you're creating like an ecosystem in your backyard where you're getting all your vegetation growing and you're inviting the right kind of insects in there to get rid of the wrong kind of insects. Now, also, don't use any insecticide. Do not use any insecticides on your garden plants or your veggies where you put these perches, because those will kill the dragonflies and you don't want to do that. That defeats the purpose. So you're going to put these stakes or these perches in areas where you want to attract the dragonfly, but not kill them. All right. So you don't, put some of it in the shade. I tell everyone, I try to tell everyone, I'm going to tell you guys, if you're putting a stake, put it in an area that gets some shade. Dragonflies do their thing at certain times of day, and that's usually first thing in the morning or around sunset. They don't like the bright heat of the day, and they're not really nocturnal, that you won't see much. But if you ever notice dragonflies, you either see them early in the morning, before the sun gets too hot, or you'll see them around sunset. So that's a more shaded time. So you want to put perches in shady spots around your yard where during those times of day there's going to be shade. If you do need to use insecticide, if you see that you have pests in your plants, make sure you use an organic one that has no artificial chemicals, because again, you don't want to kill these dragonflies. And you're going to spray down low near the vegetation. You're not going to spray up in the air, a big broad spraying motion up into the trees. You're going to spray your insecticide down along the ground so that the insects don't get up into the plants. Now, dragonflies, again, they do not bite. They do not have stingers. A dragonfly cannot hurt you at all. Right? You're too big. It doesn't have little claw things. It has this cute little tongue, like a frog, that grabs the mosquitoes and sucks it in. Right? There's nothing on you, unless you have a mosquito on you, that a dragonfly is interested in. Dragonflies are also not afraid of humans. As I said, if you can get close enough to one, you can actually pet it down the middle of its back, beyond the wings. All right, down the middle of its back, not the long tail. But take a lesson from kids. Kids know, or we knew when we were kids, that fireflies weren't going to hurt us, dragonflies weren't going to hurt us, regular flies weren't going to hurt us. Dragonfly is our friend. So they are one of the best mosquito repellents or mosquito controllers that you could ever possibly have. All right. So any questions about the mosquito repellent or about the dragonflies? There are these things, and I will tell you, it's called mosquito bits, and they're like little pellets. If you have standing water around your property, like say you have a pond or you have a planter that has water, a water well in the bottom of it, you're going to want to put just a pinch of these little mosquito bites down in that water or on that water source, because what those do is they actually kill the larva that the mosquito lays. So it interrupts the cycle. And no matter how many mosquitoes lay their larvae in that water source, that larva won't develop. So obviously you won't have more mosquitoes. But mosquito bites is not something you have around your house. It's something you have to buy, and it's not cheap. Okay? So just letting you know. All right. So that's the mosquito repellent, and that's the information on the dragonflies. Now, let's talk about fertilizer. I have a couple of different types of fertilizer that I use, and it depends on the time of year or what I'm seeing with my plants. Am I giving you too much information? Is there such a thing as too much information in Connie's Little Corner? There might be. Hey, this is the time of year, guys. You want to be outside, you want to travel, you can take this stuff with you. If you go camping, you can take this stuff with you. I can't remember the last time I spent any money on any spray fertilizer or any spray, like mosquito repellent, because I don't care about other bugs. Other bugs don't bother me, but mosquitoes, I don't like them. All right, let's get down to the fertilizer. Fertilizer recipe number 1. I'm going to give you 2 recipes, I think. Okay, so recipe number 1. And this is a really easy recipe. Here's what you need. You need hydrogen peroxide and you need warm water. Now, 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 4 parts water. So if you're doing a quart, you're doing 4 cups of water, then you're going to do 1 cup of peroxide. All right. So the ratio is 1 to 4. What you're going to do is you're going to put this mixture in your spray container. And it doesn't matter. Save your old Windex bottles, whatever you have, or go out and invest in that. I got that little orange spray container from TEMU. You can have a bunch of different ones of those. I have one for fertilizer and I have one for mosquitoes. And I have them labeled with a Sharpie so I know which is which. I should have gotten 2 different color containers. All right, so anyway, 1 part peroxide to 4 parts water, warm water. Mix them together, shake it up really, really good. You're going to spray that to the soil, okay? The soil, not the leaves of your plants, your vegetable gardens, your flower gardens. What this does is this kills any bacteria, it kills any fungi, right? You can also use this mixture to clean your gardening tools. Let's say maybe you were working at the front garden, and then you say, oh, I got to do some work in the back garden. Well, your front garden might have bacteria. It might have fungus that maybe you see the results of that on your leaves are kind of looking weird, and your plants are looking weird, but in the back they're growing good. You need to clean your gardening tools because you can transfer from that soil to the good soil and then end up having a problem in all your gardens. So that's all it takes. You're just going to apply it to the soil. You're going to use a little bit of it to rinse off. I usually just take one of those little quart plastic containers and I put the fluid in there and I just stick the garden tool in there and let it sit in there for a couple of minutes and then I go into the next spot of the garden. So soak your garden tools so that you can avoid transfer of the bacteria. You can also do that before you plant, which I did that to my 2 garden beds and my flower bed at the front of the house. I sprayed that soil. Even though the soil came from the garden center, it was fresh in the bag, it can still have bacteria in it, or it can still have spores that will give you fungus down the road, especially if you're in an area that gets a lot of rain. So I just lightly misted and sprayed the top of the soil. So after I had everything in place to make sure that I killed anything that was there. You don't have to worry about mixing it in. For whatever reason, the spores, the bacteria always seem to want to come to the warmth of the surface or to the light. So as long as you spray the surface, that's fine. Now, that's a one-time treatment. That's like your first initial treatment. If you have a continuing problem going on, you can make a mixture of the same thing, 1 tablespoon of peroxide to 2 cups of warm water. All right. And then every other week, you're going to spray right down close to the roots of the plants. This is a little bit more concentrated mixture. And think of it like if you have a wound and you flush it out with peroxide, it bubbles up and it kills the germs, right? All right. So this does the same thing, but this particular mixture, this 1 tablespoon of peroxide to 2 cups of warm water, this helps control root rot. If you have a household plant that you can tell it's getting root rot, it's getting soggy, whether it's been overwatered or not enough sun for the amount of water it's getting, or it's got some sort of bacteria, you can use this mixture to help reverse root rot. and you do it bi-weekly. All right, you do so every other week. If I find any of it in anything that I've planted, I tend to do it the first and third Wednesday of the month. It just makes it easy for me. Or you can do it the first and third Sunday or the first and third. Pick something that you know is going to be easy. So I do the first and third Wednesday when I check my gardens, which is why you always see me telling you this growth is from this Wednesday to this Wednesday, because that's when I check my gardens. And if I need to put any of this down, that's when I put it down. Okay, so that's the first thing. And that's a antibacterial. When you kill off the bad bacteria, it helps everything else grow. It allows the good stuff to come through and grow. So in a sense, it kind of fertilizes because it takes away the stuff that inhibits the growth. All right. Now, this fertilizer mixture that I'm going to give you, this is number 2. Actually, I might give you 3. Okay, so this particular one not only prevents diseases, but it helps with plants that are like in Arizona, that would be in a more drought type area where they don't get a lot of water and they depend on you for all the water that they get. But this fertilizer is good no matter where you are. So the first thing you're going to need, and you're going to mix this to start in a quart container. So I tell everybody, either get a quart storage, plastic storage thing, or get a quart mason jar, get a quart pitcher, but keep it to a quart and you'll find out why. So 1 quart of warm water. And it must be warm water. This has to be a little bit hotter than tepid. All right. It's got to be warm, but not scalding. All right. And you'll find out why in a second. This is why. Because you need 1 tablespoon of dry yeast. It doesn't matter if you use the yeast in the jar or if you use the yeast in the packet. You need 1 tablespoon. You're going to mix that into the quart. And to that mixture, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Just regular white household granulated sugar. All right. Not anything fancy, not brown sugar, white granulated sugar. So 2 tablespoons of that. Now, you should let that set at least overnight. But within about 2 hours, if you have it sitting on a counter, all right, because you don't want to refrigerate. You want it to stay warm because it has to dissolve the yeast. The yeast has to start to be activated. Very shortly, you'll start to see it foaming in this quart container. And you'll start to see the water changing. So every once in a while, don't put a cap on it tight because it will explode the cap. But every once in a while, put the cap on. Give it just a little tip to mix it up. No, do not shake it vigorously. Just give it a little tip. Take the cap back off it. If you find that your yeast is foaming more than you have room for, just transfer it into a bigger bowl or transfer it into a bigger container. But it's important that with these ratios, it starts with a quart of water. So let that set overnight. But don't use it any less than 4 hours after you make it. That yeast has to fully be done, so to speak. It has to, yeah. All right. It's going to expand. It's going to foam. It's going to get all sorts of weird looking. All right. So then you want to add this mix into a 5-gallon bucket of water. So you've only got a quart. So you're going to do almost 5 gallons of water. Get a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot, like the orange one you see that I have. I fill it, no, except for maybe about 3 or 4 inches from the top. And then add that quart into it and give it a really good stir. All right. Make sure it's all mixed in very, very thoroughly. You now have your homemade fertilizer that you can use on your vegetables or on your flower pot. You can use it on your grass, which I did not use it at the grass behind the shed, but I did use it on the grass that's on the front lawn. And you can see the difference. The back behind the shed after 3 weeks is still barely there. The front after 2 weeks is seriously grown. in just 2 weeks' time because I put this fertilizer on it. I also put this fertilizer on the pepper plant and on the tomato plants, and you've seen the growth. All right. Now you're going to water it. All right. And put it in a little spray bottle. You do not want to thin it down. So don't water it using your hose with one of those sprayers on it because you don't want to thin this mixture down anymore. It's got to stay at the measurements that it's at. All right. But dip a spray bottle in there, fill a spray bottle, go around and mist a little bit. Or you can take a little, like a little watering can, like you saw, I got the big watering can, fill that up halfway and just sprinkle around. All right. It doesn't matter if you get a little bit on the leaves, try not to, but the whole idea is that you're going to be watering the soil with this around what you want to see some accelerated growth from. You're going to this bi-weekly. Again, every other week. You're going to give this a light watering. Remember, the key to watering your plants is you never put so much water around any type of vegetation that it leaves a puddle. You want to see the soil moist, and you want it moist to maybe the second knuckle of your finger. So about 1.5 inches down, the soil needs to be moist. You do that lightly and gradually letting it soak in. If you're seeing a puddle on the top, you've overwatered and you could kill your plants. You won't see as much growth with a plant that's been overwatered as you will with one that has the proper fertilizer and the right amount of water. So, and also the time of day, which we can talk about a little bit. All right. The third recipe for fertilizer, which I used on the front for the hostas and for the giant canna, for the Musifolia canna. So I was using different fertilizers in different areas so that I could monitor and see how each worked for those. So I've got one fertilizer that I'm using for the veggies, and I got another fertilizer that I'm using for the flower beds, right? So this is your third fertilizer. This one's really, really easy, all right? You're going to take a cup of milk, and it should be whole milk, works the best, because that has the most vitamins and nutrients in whole milk. But if you don't have whole milk, I don't have whole milk in my house. Everything in my house is fat-free skim, but it still works. As you saw in the pictures, it still works, right? So 1 cup milk, 1 teaspoon of the Dawn, right, or Castile soap, whichever you happen to have. And as I said, most everybody has Dawn handy. And 1 tablespoon of turmeric. Now, you're going to mix all this together, and you're going to put all that, mix it together in a cup, and then put it into a quart of warm water. So you'll end up with a little bit more than a quart because you'll have like a quart in a cup. But again, that quart of warm water, or you can use rainwater. It doesn't matter. I used rainwater out of the barrel. Right? Works just as well. So 1 quart of water, 1 cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of either Dawn soap, liquid dish soap, or Castile soap, and 1 tablespoon of turmeric. Now, you can spray this, you mist this over the top of your veggies or your vegetation, your flowers. And yes, this can get right on the leaves. It won't hurt it any. You can spray it on, and the best time to do that is first thing in the morning before the sun gets too hot. So if you're up somewhere between like 6 and 9 o'clock in the morning, then that's when you do it. You go out there and you just mist this. And you do this once every 7 to 10 days. So a week, week and a half, you go out and you just lightly spritz. Okay, you don't soak. You spritz, you mist. Less is more because you're going to be doing this weekly. So you don't want to overpower them. Now, if you want to pour this fertilizer mixture around the base of your plants, all right, in each individual plant. Like say you have a house plant, or you have, like I do, you have the raised garden beds and you want to go around each individual plant. Then you change this just a little bit. Instead of using a quart of water, you use a gallon of warm water. All right. But you use the same amount of milk, the same amount of all ingredients are the same amount. All you're doing is increasing the water because you're going to be pouring this directly on the soil, which will get direct to the roots. So it can be a little bit thinner mix, but it still works beautifully. And again, you're only going to do this every 7 to 10 days is probably the best. You can even go 10 to 14 days, depending. And of course, that depends on the growth that you see. But when you put it in the gallon and you're going to pour it on the soil, then you want to use about 1 cup per each area, not per plant. So for example, my pepper plant is by itself in its own container. That would get a full 1 cup of the solution poured around the base of the plant, not on the leaves, around as close as I can get to the stalk of the plant. That'll get a cup. My tomato plants are planted together in a different part of the yard. Each of those, because they're together in one area, each of those will get a 1/2 cup around the base. So I spread it out because they're close. If I were to use this on my watermelon beds where I have 25 plants coming up, right, it would take several cups, but I would only do a little dribble, a little circle around each plant and not do a whole cup. I would basically, probably for that entire bed, use 3, maybe 4 cups of the mixture. So depending on what you have, where your plantings are, how they're spaced, how much storage space you have, do you have gallon containers? I save milk jugs. I got another milk jug sitting over there on the counter that I save so that I can make another batch. So those will give you your fertilizers. Now, I hope you wrote all this down because I know it's a lot of information. But I thought, you know what? Y'all wanted recipes. And this is the time of year you want your gardens to grow good. You want your veggies to grow good. You want your flowers to look beautiful. You can use these things on shrubs, newly planted trees, fruit trees, vegetables, anything that grows in your ecosystem around your home, and even your potted plants, you can use these recipes on. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the growth that I have gotten in just the past week with my first dose of these fertilizers. So the last thing I'm going to tell you, to share a little gardening news, is y'all know Mama grew up on a farm. So the one thing she knows is how to grow stuff. And she's always had a green thumb, and she still does. And she taught me from very early age. You don't ever water with an oscillator and just let it run and water things. Okay, that's a waste of water. It's not going to serve any real purpose. Don't do it. You water in the morning before 9 a.m. and you water lightly. I take my nozzle and I put it on shower, and I don't hold it in one spot. I'm the oscillator. I let it go back and forth in rows, and I coat each section of whatever I am watering, and I move on to the next session. I do it nice and lightly. First thing in the morning, everything gets a light shower. And then every night at 7 p.m. after sundown, at 7 p.m., I go out and I repeat that process. Everything gets a light shower, not a soaking, no puddles forming, all right? No, it's just enough to make the wet ground not look wet, but not stick around. So it will soak into the ground. In the morning, what it does is it waters the plants enough that it gets them through the day. They have a little bit of water to start them before the heat of the day. And then at night, you're replenishing the water supply that may have evaporated during the day, and you're giving them the entire night, 12 to 14 hours, right, to enjoy that water. Plants will do the majority of their root growth at night, and then they'll do their upper growth during the day when they reach for the sun. So watering, again, an oscillator, don't waste your time. You want to water your lawn? If you're trying to keep your lawn green, you can use the oscillator, but you know what? You're going to use more water than if you just go out by hand and go, whatever works for you. You want to use the lawn sprinklers. They can be very efficient as far as the amount of water they use, but they don't water your yard evenly. You're always going to have spots where the water lands that get more water than any place else does. So there's pros and cons to all different methods, and I'm sure you all have your own way of doing this. Okay? All right. Now, one little bittersweet message I have to give to you guys. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do this, but I do. So y'all know that we did the giveaway. I used the comment picker, and Janine was the first winner. She got the box. Well, it's now 1:00 Tuesday afternoon, been more than 48 hours, and I have not heard from Janine. She has not claimed her prize. And I'm kind of sad, because she did 5 entries, I guess, hoping to win, and she did win, but she didn't claim it. So, Kathy. Oh, Kathy! And guys, it's Kathy with a C, by the way. Cat's meow too. You, as the alternate winner, now have 48 hours to claim your prize because you're next up, and it's now defaulted to you as the alternate. So you need to email me, konneeslittlecorner@gmail.com, to claim your prize. And you have, today is the 27th. So you have until the 29th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm giving you a full 48 hours to send me that email and claim your prize. And I don't care what you put in the email, just so long as I know you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm claiming it, it's mine. Yeah, I can't believe I won. Whatever you want to put in there. And then you and I will communicate. And if I don't hear from Kathy by Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, then I will go back to the comment picker and maybe third time's the charm. Who knows, right? But, okay, the box hasn't left yet. It's sitting on the floor behind me, waiting to be claimed. Pretty sure Kathy's going to claim it, though. If I had to lay odds on this, if I had to wager, which I'm not necessarily a betting woman, I would wager that thing is probably going to be claimed within an hour of this video going up. I don't know how long it takes. The video's an hour long. Okay, so an hour and 10 minutes after the video goes up, because I put this announcement at the end of the video for a reason. So anyway, guys, big thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed getting a little bit of information, finding out what's been going on around the corner. Levi's fine, by the way. He's just over here vegged out, and Mama's good. And I'm okay. Thumbs up, share this, and if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I will tell you, I had some people subscribe just so that they could get in on that box to try to win that box. And the minute they didn't win, they're like, bye, see ya, I'm out of here. Okay, your loss. So the next time I do a giveaway, it will be a requirement that you must have been my subscriber for a minimum of 30 days in order to qualify. So that'll be a new qualification. I don't need any greedy people coming in. My subscriber appreciation giveaways are for those that have supported this channel. If you're just popping in trying to win, where's the support? We need all the support we can get, right? So guys, remember, stay hydrated. Above all else, please stay sweet. And I will catch you soon with more TEMU, hopefully more AliExpress, and more news. Ask me questions. You might get an answer. Love you guys. Bye.